Jim Jones just can't seem to stop talking. And this time, every word he says feels like it's digging a bigger hole for himself. Once celebrated as one of Harlem's most solid figures in hip-hop, the rapper now finds himself under fire for contradicting his own stories, twisting facts, and trying to rewrite history. Fans are finally saying enough is enough. The streets are tired, the receipts are out, and Jim's credibility? It's hanging by a thread. From claiming he invented Dipset's entire aesthetic to backtracking on old beefs, every interview seems to contradict the last. One moment he's talking about how he built the Harlem movement from scratch, and the next, videos resurface of the very people who were there. Cameron, Mace, even industry veterans, showing the real story. And the internet doesn't forget. Clips, comments, old interviews, they all start stacking up, painting a very different picture from the one Jim keeps selling. The shocking part? It's not just casual fans noticing, peers, colleagues, and even the younger generation of Harlem artists are paying attention. When someone like Fivio Foreign, Dave East, or a Boogie respects the history but doesn't quote you, that's a sign. And right now, Jim Jones' biggest opponent isn't Cam or Mace, it's his own mouth. Every statement meant to defend his legacy only seems to confirm what people have been thinking for years. He's lost touch with the real Harlem he once represented. The question now is simple. How does a Harlem legend, a man with decades of influence and a loyal following, end up becoming the subject of online scrutiny and meme culture? This is the story of the man who lost Harlem. Jim Jones has always had an image that stands out, a rock star flair in the middle of Harlem. He claims he invented that look, that motorcycle jackets, ripped jeans, and the whole rock and roll aesthetic in hip-hop were his idea first. According to him, he set the torch for the Dipset style and influenced even big names like Lil Wayne. "I always been dressing like a white boy since high school," he says. "I created that whole style and implemented it into the hip-hop culture." Bold claim. But when fans start digging, the story doesn't hold up. Old interviews and footage show other players in the scene shaping Dipset's image long before Jim made it mainstream. Cameron, Mace, and even other Dipset members were putting in the work, funding early moves and building the foundation. The internet was quick to respond. Clips resurfaced of Cam explaining how he put Jim on, giving him exposure and opportunities, completely contradicting Jim's version of events. The tension grows because this isn't just about style. Jim's claims are part of a larger pattern, trying to take full credit for a movement that was bigger than one person. Fans started pointing out inconsistencies, and suddenly the conversation shifted. It wasn't just about fashion, it was about authenticity, and Harlem knows authenticity when it sees it. But Jim didn't slow down. He doubled down on the narrative, emphasizing that without him, there would be no Dipset wave, no Harlem takeover, no influence on younger artists. And that's when the fans pushed back hardest. Old clips, old receipts, and even casual observers online were ready to fact-check every word. "You joined Dipset," they said. "You didn't start it." And just like that, a bold claim meant to reinforce his legacy became the first crack in his story. But this was only the beginning. What came next would show that the contradictions weren't just about clothes, they were everywhere. If there's one thing Jim Jones can't seem to get right, it's his own story. Over the years, he's been caught constantly backtracking and rewriting the history of Dipset, flipping details depending on the interview or the audience. One week, he's saying he held the crew together through thick and thin, and the next, he's blaming everyone else for their breakups. Fans have started noticing the pattern. Every time Jim opens his mouth, the story changes. Take the old beefs, for example. Jim will claim the Lukes and Bazoo's battle didn't matter, then a month later, say it was serious. He'll talk about Mace as if they've made peace, then throw shade in the next interview. His narrative isn't just inconsistent, it's unpredictable. And that unpredictability fuels online discussions. People start piecing together clips, past interviews, and social media posts, realizing the man who once seemed untouchable is now a walking contradiction. The receipts are everywhere. Videos resurface of Cam and Mace explaining exactly how things went down, showing the work and decisions Jim claims as his own were often collaborative or initiated by others. Mace even said on air, "Jim's been lying on my name for years, but now people see it for themselves." That statement lit the internet up because it confirmed what fans had suspected. Jim wasn't just exaggerating, he was rewriting history. It's not only about past stories either. His attempts to control the narrative around his current relevance are just as shaky. From claiming influence over younger Harlem artists to asserting dominance in the New York rap scene, each statement seems carefully crafted to boost his image. But each one also invites pushback. Every clip shared, every old interview pulled up, adds to the pile of contradictions. And that's the problem. The more Jim tries to defend himself, the more evidence emerges showing his version of events doesn't match reality. The streets, the fans, and even peers are watching, and they're not impressed. Every inconsistency chips away at the credibility he once had. Jim Jones isn't just being challenged, he's being exposed. At the center of all this is Jim Jones's ego. For decades, it's been driving every interview, every claim, and every attempt to control the narrative. Instead of letting his work speak for itself, he's constantly trying to position himself as the general, the capo, the mastermind behind Dipset. But the problem? His peers, and the receipts, tell a very different story. Jim's ego doesn't just show up in bold statements, it fuels his public feuds and backpedaling. One day he's bragging about keeping Dipset together, the next he's blaming everyone else for falling outs. He claims influence over the younger Harlem generation, but when artists like Dave East, Fivio Foreign, or A Boogie respect his past without quoting him, it's clear the influence isn't what he says it is. Every time he tries to assert dominance, it ends up highlighting the cracks. Even his peers have started calling it out openly. Mason Cameron repeatedly poked fun at him on air, not maliciously, but factually, pointing out when Jim switches narratives or inflates his role. Fans eat it up because it's true. Clips spread online showing Jim calling himself the capo of Harlem, while the people who built the movement laugh behind the scenes. The result? Instead of looking solid, Jim comes off as insecure, defensive, and out of touch. It's almost like his mouth became his biggest enemy. The same voice that helped build his reputation is now the one eroding it. Every bold claim or attempt to reclaim respect sparks new scrutiny. The more Jim tries to control the story, the more it backfires. And the audience is noticing. Harlem, the streets, and hip-hop fans aren't blind. They see when someone is chasing validation instead of letting authenticity shine. And this isn't just about image. Ego has a cost, and for Jim, that cost is credibility, the one thing that kept him relevant and respected for decades. Once that starts slipping, even legendary status won't save you. The internet doesn't forget, and for Jim Jones, that's become a major problem. Every time he tells a story, fans are ready with old clips, interviews, and receipts to fact-check him in real time. Comments on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube paint a clear picture. People aren't buying his narrative anymore. Clips of Jim bragging about Dipset's success get reposted with captions like, "This man lying again," or "Didn't he say something different last month?" He's become his own meme, not because people hate him, but because they can't take his version of history seriously. Even loyal fans are checking out. The comments aren't subtle. "Jim been lying for so long he forgot the truth," one user wrote. He really thinks he can gaslight the whole culture. Others point out the contradictions in his stories, calling him out for backtracking on old beefs, flipping narratives, and trying to clean up his image after years of reckless statements. The consensus is clear. Credibility lost can't be bought back with viral interviews or temporary attention. It's not just casual fans either. The younger generation of Harlem artists respects his past work, but isn't quoting him or following his narrative. Social media amplifies this divide, showing that while Jim chases relevance online, the culture is moving forward without him. Every clip, comment, and meme adds pressure, reinforcing that the people who once cheered for him are now part of the audience calling him out. And the effect is brutal. Online reactions aren't just commentary, they shape perception. In hip-hop, respect and credibility are everything. When the community starts laughing at you, sharing clips to prove a point, and turning your contradictions into memes, it signals a major shift. Jim Jones' audience has spoken. The man who once represented Harlem's realness now comes off like he's living in a fantasy, and the internet isn't letting him forget it. Jim Jones isn't just dealing with the past, he's constantly trying to stay relevant, and sometimes that effort backfires spectacularly. He's been calling out newer Harlem artists, claiming influence over the modern scene, and picking fights online to make headlines. Last year, he even targeted Pusha T, calling him overrated and saying he doesn't have hits for New York. Fans were quick to flip that narrative, reminding everyone how Pusha dismantled Drake, something Jim could never do. The result? Another internet roast session at his expense. It's become a pattern. Jim chases viral moments, fake controversies, or interviews that keep him trending for a week, but in reality, it just highlights how out of touch he is with the current generation. A Boogie, Fivio Foreign, Dave East, they respect his past but aren't quoting him. Harlem's new wave is thriving without needing his approval, and each attempt he makes to assert influence only exposes the gap between his image and reality. Even within his own era, Jim can't stop trying to prove dominance. He talks about competing at the top level, taking shots at peers, and wanting smoke in the booth with anyone willing to test him. But it comes across as ego-driven theatrics rather than authentic rivalry. Every bold statement meant to reinforce relevance becomes another chance for fans to fact-check, meme, and question his credibility. Jim Jones had every opportunity to go down as a Harlem legend, and not just for his music, but for his influence, mentorship, and presence in the community. He had the longevity, the energy, and the hustle to cement a respected status as an elder statesman in hip-hop. Imagine a version of Jim who focused on guiding the youth, uplifting Harlem, and sharing the knowledge he's earned over 2 decades. That could have been his legacy. Instead, ego got in the way. The hunger for validation started to eat away at his authenticity. He wanted to be seen as the mastermind, the capo, the guy who controlled every narrative, rather than owning his lane and letting his contributions speak for themselves. Every time he tried to assert dominance or rewrite history, he undercut the very credibility he had spent years building. His peers have noticed and aren't holding back. Cameron and Mace have running jokes on their show, It Is What It Is, where they called Jim out for switching stories or inflating his role. When Mace said, "Jim's like that dude who copies your homework but still gets it wrong," fans exploded online. It was funny, but it was also painfully accurate. Every attempt Jim makes to insert himself into the conversation about Dipset or Harlem history feels forced and exposes how far he's strayed from the respect he once commanded. And it's not just old school peers who notice. The younger Harlem generation sees it too. Artists like Fivio Foreign, Dave East, and a Boogie are carrying the torch of modern Harlem sound. They respect the history, but they aren't following Jim's narrative, quoting him, or giving him influence. By chasing moments, viral clips, and fake controversies instead of embracing authenticity, Jim missed the chance to secure a lasting, respected role in the culture. At this point, the writing is on the wall. Jim Jones has lost the one thing that made him who he was. Respect? Fans, peers, and even the younger Harlem generation are side-eyeing the man who once represented realness. His attempts to control narratives, rewrite history, and chase relevance have caught up with him, leaving a trail of contradictions, memes, and disappointed supporters. Instead of evolving into a respected elder statesman, someone who could guide the youth, share wisdom, and uplift Harlem, he doubled down on ego-driven behavior. Every bold claim, every attempt to assert dominance, and every online roast only reinforced the truth fans already knew. Authenticity matters more than hype, and credibility, once lost, is nearly impossible to regain. The streets remember, peers like Cam and Mace, and even industry veterans like Fat Joe keep pointing out the difference between perception and reality. Clips of Jim calling himself the capo of Harlem, while others laugh behind the scenes, spread like wildfire. The audience sees it, the culture sees it, and slowly, the respect that once defined him is slipping away. Jim's story isn't about hating on him, it's a lesson in the cost of ego. In hip-hop, you can rebuild a career, but once credibility is gone, the legacy is in danger. The same Harlem that lifted him up now waits for him to finally keep it 100. Until then, the man who built his name on loyalty has to watch as pride and contradictions take it all away.